Emily Grant was the kind of teacher every parent dreamed of till one missing student unraveled her horrifying double life. For years, she inspired trust, led classrooms with grace, and lived as a model citizen in Maplewood. But behind her calm voice and caring smile was a twisted obsession, secret files, and a plan no one saw coming. For over 10 years, she had been the beloved biology teacher at the local high school. And those eager to learn discovered a mentor who pushed them to do their best. It started with simple things. A few missing test papers here, rumors whispered about strange notes found in the school's lost and found, unsigned and unsettling, with cryptic messages that no one could place. Some parents mentioned that Emily seemed distant during parent-teacher meetings, her usual warmth replaced by a sharpness that felt out of place. At home, neighbors reported hearing strange noises late at night, though no one knew what to make of them. And their assignments that never made it back to students, and an unusual number of sick days taken without explanation. It was difficult to imagine that someone so trusted could hide a darker side. What had once been brushed off as harmless quirks or stress-related behaviors now sparked real concern. It all started when the school received an anonymous tip. Emily continued to teach her classes, maintaining a smile that barely hid her growing tension. Neighbors reported odd behaviors that made them uncomfortable. Late at night, her house was often lit up, but rarely with any visitors. Instead, sounds of banging or scratching came from inside. Some neighbors mentioned seeing her pacing in her yard at odd hours, speaking softly to herself. Others noticed unfamiliar faces lurking nearby, people who didn't seem to belong to the peaceful Maplewood community. Meanwhile, some teachers started noticing subtle changes in her attitude. The once patient and kind educator grew distant and sometimes cold, her sharp gaze making students uneasy. She grew more paranoid, locking her doors and windows obsessively. Friends who tried to check on her found her defensive and evasive. Text messages and phone calls went unanswered for days. Those closest to her sensed she was slipping away, but no one could reach her. A few students who had admired her before now spoke in hushed tones about the strange punishments she handed out, assignments that didn't seem to have a clear purpose, or tasks that felt more like tests of obedience than learning. The message was vague but alarming. Someone claimed Emily was acting strange outside of school hours, behaving in ways that didn't fit her usual calm and professional demeanor. The principal, hesitant at first, decided to quietly look into the matter, hoping it was just a misunderstanding. She was seen pulling certain students aside, away from the eyes of others, for long private conversations. Some students returned looking frightened or confused. Teachers worried but hesitated to get involved, unsure if these moments were simply a part of her teaching style or something more troubling. The town's faith in her remained strong, and the school continued to give her full support. Yet behind the scenes, tension was quietly building. Emily's co-workers noticed her growing tiredness and occasional forgetfulness, but they attributed it to stress or family responsibilities. Her daily routines became more rigid and secretive. She started locking her classroom drawers and staying late without telling anyone why. At home, her once calm demeanor was replaced by moments of nervous pacing and whispered muttering. Friends who tried to reach out found her avoiding calls and invitations. Even the students dismissed the occasional odd behavior as just part of her unique personality. What lay beneath Emily's polished image was about to be uncovered, unhinged mind hiding in plain sight, waiting for the moment when everything would come crashing down. Teachers respected her professionalism, and the principal often praised her dedication during staff meetings. Emily's life seemed flawless from every angle. Her home was neat and welcoming, and neighbors spoke kindly of her as a dependable and friendly woman. To the outside world, Emily was the picture of perfection. She arrived at school every day with a warm smile, always ready to help her students understand the wonders of science. Her lessons were creative and engaging, filled with experiments and stories that made biology come alive. Parents trusted her completely, confident that their children were in good hands. At school events and community gatherings, Emily was a familiar face, always cheerful and approachable. What began as strange behavior turned into a town-wide nightmare, one that exposed how darkness can hide behind even the most trusted faces. In the peaceful town of Maplewood, Emily Grant was a name everyone knew and admired. Her classroom was a safe haven for many students. Those struggling with difficult subjects found encouragement in her patience, But beneath this polished exterior, subtle signs of trouble began to emerge, small cracks in the perfect facade that no one quite noticed at first. Still, the quiet community of Maplewood was not immune to gossip and suspicion. Despite these small warnings, most people chose to believe in the Emily they knew, the caring teacher who always put her students first. Unknown to the community, Emily's private world was unraveling. The stage was set for something unexpected. The woman who had been a pillar of the community was slowly becoming a mystery, a puzzle with missing pieces. This was only the beginning. As time passed, the small oddities surrounding Emily Grant began to gather more attention, slowly shifting the way people saw her. Investigations began in the background, but no clear evidence emerged immediately. Outside the classroom, Emily's life showed more disturbing signs. At school, whispers about Emily's secretive after-class meetings began to circulate. In her personal life, Emily's mental state appeared fragile. She grew more paranoid, locking her doors and windows obsessively. Friends who tried to check on her found her defensive and evasive. Text messages and phone calls went unanswered for days. School administrators debated whether to intervene but feared the backlash of accusing a well-respected teacher without solid proof. She felt trapped by expectations and haunted by fears she couldn't share. The town's trust was eroding, and the woman they once praised was slowly revealing a darker, more dangerous side. What had been a respected teacher was now on the edge of losing everything. Her controlling tendencies grew stronger as she tried to maintain her grip on the classroom and the students she saw as both allies and threats. Meanwhile, the community wrestled with disbelief. How could someone so admired be unraveling like this without anyone noticing sooner? The pages were filled with obsessive writing. Her thoughts were scattered but intense. One passage claimed that she had a sacred duty to guide the chosen students and weed out those she believed were corrupting others. Another passage referred to cleansing the school of unseen threats and restoring purity. The lines between reality and fantasy were disturbingly blurred. Those closest to her sensed she was slipping away, but no one could reach her. What had started as quiet suspicion was now a full-blown criminal investigation. Her parents reported that she never returned home after school, and panic spread across the town. The high school was placed on emergency lockdown, and search teams began combing through nearby areas. The entire community was shaken. Nothing like this had ever happened in their quiet town. Almost immediately, suspicion fell on Emily Grant. Her erratic behavior and the recent evidence piling up against her were impossible to ignore. Emily Grant's hidden world was no longer a secret. It was evidence in a case that would shock the entire community. What they uncovered shocked even the most seasoned investigators. Hidden compartments were found beneath floorboards and behind bookshelves. Inside were journals, photos, and diagrams. It included class schedules, photographs, behavioral notes, and even printouts of her social media posts. The level of detail was deeply unsettling. Next to this folder was a map with a red circle drawn around an abandoned property. Just outside of town, an old cottage that Emily had once inherited from a distant relative. Authorities moved quickly and sent search teams to the location. Some pages featured disturbing sketches that mirrored the school's floor plan with specific classrooms and student names highlighted. A large whiteboard in her basement bore symbols and arrows that no one could immediately decode. But one thing was clear. Maylee had been planning something for a long time. There were bracelets, pencil cases, even a child's backpack call belonging to students. These items had been reported missing over the past few years, but no one had ever suspected Emily. The fact that she kept them, some wrapped carefully in tissue paper, suggested an emotional attachment that went far beyond what was acceptable. It became clear that Emily wasn't just watching her students. She believed she owned a part of them. The more they searched, the darker the picture became. The school kept the investigation under wraps, but rumors spread fast. Some parents pulled their children out of class. Others demanded answers at a hastily arranged town meeting. Her defensiveness escalated into visible anger. She accused others of trying to sabotage her and claimed the files had been planted. But the proof was too strong. Witnesses emerged, students who finally felt brave enough to share how Emily made them feel trapped, watched, and manipulated. Some revealed that they had been forced to write self-reflections late into the evening, confessing things they never intended to say out loud. Emily, however, continued to act as if everything were normal. She showed up to school each day with her same clipped smile, seemingly unaware that the walls were closing in. Emily's school-issued laptop revealed a hidden folder containing dozens of private recordings. Some were audio files of students' conversations apparently captured without consent. Others were videos of classrooms taken from odd angles, footage that had never been part of any school project or security procedure. She had been secretly observing and documenting students far beyond professional boundaries. The cracks in Emily's facade widened as her behavior became less predictable. While repairing a faulty pipe, he noticed a small padlocked drawer tucked behind school supplies. Curious, he reported it to the administration. When the school's security officer pried it open, what they found shifted the investigation into overdrive. Inside were printed photos of students, some marked with strange symbols. There were handwritten notes describing their behaviors, habits, and even their families. It looked less like a teacher's academic records and more like a surveillance file. Unbeknownst to everyone, Emily was battling inner demons that consumed her every thought. This period of uncertainty and fear set the stage for the shocking discoveries to come. The tension in Maplewood was rising, and the truth about Emily Grant was closer than anyone realized. Everything changed the day a maintenance worker stumbled upon something unusual behind the biology lab cabinet. The findings were handed over to local authorities, who quietly launched a formal inquiry. It was around this time that investigators found a hidden journal in her basement. During a warranted search, along with the journal were several boxes of confiscated personal items. Parents and teachers alike were horrified as the news began to leak. When confronted privately by the school's principal, she denied everything, even as investigators gathered more damning evidence. It was no longer a matter of misconduct. The situation had spiraled into something much more sinister. The tension in Maplewood escalated to a breaking point when a 15-year-old student named Lauren Bennett went missing. Police obtained a search warrant for her house, this time with urgency. In a locked box, police found a detailed folder on Lauren Bennett. It included class schedules, photographs, behavioral notes, and even printouts of her social media posts. The level of detail was deeply unsettling. Next to this folder was a map with a red circle drawn around an abandoned property. It's just outside of town, an old cottage that Emily had once inherited from a distant relative. She told officers that Emily had picked her up after school under the pretense of needing help with a special project. Once inside the cottage, Emily locked the doors and took her phone. Lauren was forced to stay in a room with boarded-up windows and no idea if anyone knew where she was. The unthinkable had happened, and the consequences were only beginning to unfold. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse each day. Porters filled the front lawn, and local news outlets provided daily coverage. And the disturbing journals filled with obsessive thoughts and detailed plans. The recordings captured students during private conversations, some of which had clearly been edited and analyzed by Emily for unknown purposes. The testimony of Lauren Bennett was particularly heartbreaking. Background checks and mental health screenings for staff were strengthened. A whistleblower policy was introduced, encouraging students and teachers to report suspicious behavior without fear. Parents demanded more transparency, and new counseling services were added for students who had been directly affected by Emily's actions. She described how Emily had manipulated her trust, only to lock her away in an isolated room under the guise of a cleansing process. But as a reminder that even those who seem trustworthy can hide dangerous secrets, some struggled to return to normal life, while others found comfort in speaking out and supporting each other. Lauren became an advocate for student safety, speaking at assemblies and urging others to always listen to their instincts. Her voice trembled as she recounted the fear and confusion she felt, unsure if she would ever be found. Emily Grant had started as a pillar of the community and ended as a cautionary tale. Her story was shared, not just as a tragedy, but as a warning evil can wear a friendly face. And sometimes, the most unsettling darkness hides in plain sight. The town watched, as every detail of her secret life was laid bare in a courtroom once used only for petty crimes and parking disputes. They explained how over time her perception of reality had become distorted. She was sentenced to a secure psychiatric facility instead of prison, where she would receive long-term mental health treatment. Many in the community had mixed feelings, relief that she was no longer a threat, but sorrow over how far she had fallen and how long her issues had gone unnoticed. She believed she was on a mission to protect certain students from imagined threats. But the court had to decide whether her condition absolved her of responsibility or if she knew enough about her actions to be held accountable. The jury deliberated for 2 days before returning a verdict. Emily, dressed in plain clothing and showing no emotion, sat silently through most of the proceedings, occasionally writing in a small notebook that no one was allowed to see. According to Lauren, Emily spoke to her in a calm but eerie tone, telling her she was chosen and had to be purified from outside influences. Authorities moved quickly and sent search teams to the location. She was arrested without resistance, but remained emotionally detached during the process, calmly stating that she had done nothing wrong. When questioned, she insisted that she had saved Lauren, not harmed her. She claimed the world was full of darkness, and that only a few people could be trusted to protect the future. Her statements grew more incoherent, painting a picture of a woman who had fully detached from reality. Lauren was found inside the cottage, physically unharmed, but clearly terrified. She had been held there for nearly 36 hours. The same teacher who had once been honored for her service was now the center of a criminal investigation involving abduction and psychological manipulation. The school district faced heavy criticism for missing so many warning signs. While Lauren was safely reunited with her family, her emotional scars would take far longer to heal. The rescue confirmed what many had feared. Emily was no longer just mentally unstable. She was a danger to others. As the news spread, the community was paralyzed with disbelief. Emily Grant had crossed a line no one saw coming. The trial of Emily Grant became one of the most talked about events in Maplewood's history. The prosecution presented a staggering amount of evidence. There were dozens of surveillance photos taken without consent, stolen personal belongings from students. Psychologists brought in by the court confirmed that Emily suffered from untreated mental illness, likely a form of paranoid delusional disorder. Emily was found guilty on multiple charges, including kidnapping, unlawful surveillance, child endangerment, and evidence tampering. In the aftermath, the school district underwent a major overhaul. The students she taught would never forget her not, as the inspiring teacher she once was. Maplewood slowly returned to its quiet routine, but the memory of what happened lingered. Emily Grant had started as a pillar of the community and ended as a cautionary tale. Her story was shared not just as a tragedy, but as a warning evil can wear a friendly face, and sometimes the most unsettling darkness hides in plain sight.